Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, guys. How are you today? I hope everyone is good today. Okay, and our topic today is designing classroom language test. Before this, let me introduce our member. We are from group 2 and the member is Puspita Nadia, Zahwa Yunanta, and then Rahma dari Batis. Okay, today outline is for assessment scenario, determine purpose or usefulness, state construct or ability, draw up specification, devising test item, designing multiple choice item, administering the test, and then scoring, grading, and giving feedback. Okay, for the first one is for assessment scenario. The first is reading quiz. Reading quiz is the teacher give reading books for students to be tested the next day. The reading quiz is the purpose of reading quiz is check how far students understand the content of the reading text and as a material for in-class discussion. And the second is grammar unit test. That is, students fill in the blank items or choose the correct grammar in a written question or paragraph. The content is about verb tense and divided into 3 sections. There is multiple choice items, fill in the blanks items, and then grammar editing test. The third is midterm essay. This is student will write a narrative essay and description which will be read by the teacher. And the last one is listening or speaking final exam. Listening to audio, then responding to multiple choice items written, and oral interview between teacher and student. There is include listening, oral interview one by one with the teacher.
Okay, so the next is determining the purpose of a test. So the question is, why are you creating this test? And the second is, how important is the test compared to other student performance? So the first is the test must innovative and creative, and then the second is must communicative and interactive. So the test usefulness has checklists. The first is, do I need to administer a test at this point in my course? If so, what purpose will it serve the student and or me? The second is, is its significance relative to my course? And the third is it simply an expected way to mark the end of a lesson, unit, or period of time? And the fourth is, how important is it compared to other student performance? And the last is, do I want to use result to determine whether my student have met certain predetermined curriculum standard? So the test usefulness is must be explained what its purpose is and what student must master in order to take the test successfully. And the next is reading quiz. Quizzes are designed as instructional tools to guide class discussion. And then reading quiz is it formative and was back and forcing students to think independent about the reading text to know strength and weakness to the student comprehension skills.
Okay, next is defining abilities to be assessed. Not to test. The first is know what you want to test specifically, and the second, what do you want to find out? The third is what abilities you want to assess, and the last is knowing what ability to assess is important. The section is grammar unit test. This test comes at the end of a 3-week unit in a grammar focus course at a high beginning level 2 class in an adult school in the United States. Students have completed level 1 or have been placed into level 2 by a placement test. All the students are simultaneously taking 2 integrated skills classes, listening, speaking, and reading or writing. And the grammar class serves to reinforce the grammatical forms that are encountered in the other two classes. This is the example from grammar test. Students actually use four main skills in this course. So tests that can assess students in those skills is needed: listening, writing, speaking, and reading. And the example you can see in this page, students will understand and produce the following verb tense in appropriate oral and written context in simple present tense, present continuous, simple past, and present perfect. Next is construct an instant checklist for your test specification. This is the example from construct. There are comprehension and the second production.
Okay, so the next is drawing up test specification. Okay, so the definition is outline of the test, and then reflecting the purpose and objective. So in include to include the test specification is the first is the skills or abilities assessed, and then content description, and the next is item types, such a method such as multiple choice, and then the next is tasks. The example is write an essay, and then skill to be included, specific procedures used to score the test, and then the last is an explanation of how test result will be reported to students. And then the next is grammar unit test. This is a step to design. The first step is a broad outline of how the test will be organized. And the second is which of the 8 sub-skill you will test. And then the next is what the various tasks and item types will be, and how result will be scored, reported, and used in future classes or WASPEC. And the next is midterm is essay. The first is provide clear direction, and the second, write a prompt for a narrative or a description essay. And the third is the topic must be familiar, that student will be able to write coherently. And the fourth is assign an expectation of a full page, handwritten, and no more than 2 full page. And the next is 90 minutes time limit, and asks to include evaluation criteria like content, organization, rhetorical discourse, and grammar or mechanism. And the last is the final grade is to include 4 sub-scores. And the next is the devising test item. So it is important to note that test development is not always a clear, linear process. If you want to process through the 6-step outline in this chapter without having to recycle some of your plans, this time more specifically in terms of item design. The first is midterm essay, and the second is listening or speaking final exam. So midterm essay. Midterm essay is the single test task includes the prompt, direction, and evaluation criteria. This could be one of the easiest kind of the test tasks to create because only one item is involved. Student responses are open-ended. And the next is listening or speaking final exam. It's that simple. Some complexity is added when you realize that the type of prompt in each case vary widely and that a number of options are visible within each response mode. The first example is elicitation mode, and the second is response mode.
Okay, next is designing multiple choice items. The tests need to be vertical and must have content validity. The first multiple choice items are all receptive response or selective response. The second is every multiple choice item has theme and several options or alternative to choose from. And the last is one of those options is the correct answer, whereas the others as distractors. And the weakness you can see in page 7.2. Designing each item to measure a single objective. This is the example. And then state both STEM and options as simply and directly as possible. This is one example. Next, ensure the instead answer is correctly the only correct one. This is possible answer. And then use item indices to accept, discard, or reverse items. This is optional. This is item facility. This is formula. You can see in this page. And then this is item discrimination. You can see in this page too. And then the third, the structure efficiency, or DE, is one or more important measure of a multiple choice item's value in a test and one that is related to item discrimination. Key efficiency of the structures is the exact extent to which the structures lure a sufficient number of test takers, especially ones with lower ability, and B, those responses are somewhat evenly distributed across all the structures. Those of you who have a fear of mathematical formulas will be happy to hear that no formula exists to calculate the structure efficiency and that an inspection of a distribution of responses usually builds the information you need.
Okay, the next is administering the test. The point is you can see in page 83, any two section, there are pre-test consideration or the day before the in-class is signed. The first is provide appropriate pre-test information on A, the condition for the test, like a time limits, no portable electronics, bricks, and etc. B, materials that students should bring with them. C, the kinds of item types that will be on the test. D, suggestion of strategies for optimal performance. E, evaluation criteria such as rubric, show, benchmark, samples. The second is offer a review of components of narrative and description essays. The third is give students a chance to ask any question and provide response. The next is test administration details. There are arrive early and see to it the classroom conditions like a lighting, temperature, a clock that all can see clearly, furniture arrangement, and etc. are conducive. The next is if audio or video or other technology is needed for administration, try everything out in advance. The next is have extra paper, writing instrument, or other response material on hand. The next is start on time. The next is distribute the test itself. The next is remain quietly seated at the teacher's desk, available for question from students as they process. And the last one is for a time test, warn students when time is about to run out and encourage them to complete their work. Okay, the last one, the scoring, grading, giving, and feedback. There are scoring. This is give a score each section or chapter when the material has been explained. The next is grading. There is give score at the end. Use the A, B, or C format with a limit on their final score. And the last one is giving feedback. Based on first scenario, the first is reading quiz, providing feedback to oneself as it encourages self-assessment and is useful for class discussion. The second is grammar unit test. This diagnostic score, like a checklist of area needing work and class discussion of results. And the third midterm essay. This is individual student conference with the teacher. And the last one is listening or speaking final exam. There is receiving a final letter grade, which includes scores and sub-score from the final exam. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for your keen attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.